Australia plays its last game today in the league stage of the ICC World Cup 2023. And one of the most amazing memories from this World Cup has been the fact that Glenn Maxwell got the double 100. We all thought that he was not in a position to play any cricket at all that day. He was cramping so badly. But he got some advice from a physiotherapist. I'm not going to dwell too much on what advice was given to him. For exactly doing that, I've got Vahbiz Bharucha, who's the Indian captain for the rugby team and also a sports physiotherapist. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you for making time, Vahbiz. First and foremost, the advice that Nick Jones, the physiotherapist, gave Glenn Maxwell to continue batting rather than go back to the dressing room. You think it was a good piece of advice that he gave him?
As physiotherapists, we not only work with the body, but we also work with the mind of the athlete, and we understand where the athlete comes from. So when an athlete is in a position like that where their body is giving up and they don't know whether to go on, it is the job of the physiotherapist at that very point to make that decision for them. And as a physio, we know where our athletes stand with regards to their achievements and where they want to be. So his advice for Mr. Glenn to stay on was so that he never has a regret later on in life that what if I would have stayed, and possibly if, let's just say if this was his last match, would he have been happy to exit with that cramping body? So yes, the advice that he gave was extremely spot on for him at that given point of time.
So apparently Glenn Maxwell was cramping on the right leg, cramping on the left leg, had spasms on the back, and therefore he went prone on the ground, almost like he died. It's at that stage where he has to make the decision, he and the team have to make the decision whether he should continue batting or go off the field and try and come back later. Now I read that Nick Jones told him that your position can get worse if you go to the dressing room. You might want to stand on your 2 feet and deliver. Now, does it really happen like that, or was it just Nick Jones playing on the mind of Glenn Maxwell?
It does happen like that because as an athlete, all the strength and conditioning you can go through, you can have, the best physique possible, but if you don't have the flow of the game, which Glenn Maxwell was in, if you don't have the flow, it's very difficult to cope up with the momentum of the game. And he hit a flow and he was going in with it. So no matter the cramps, no matter what was happening, the flow would have continued because the momentum was set. Should you break that momentum for an athlete, it's very difficult to now restart that. There is a lot of inertia. So yes, it does happen where if he would have gone back to the dressing room to rehydrate or replenish his salts, his entire flow would have got disrupted, and then he would have to restart something which was anyways in momentum.
Typically, Vahbiz, fans and even journalists like us think that the role of the physiotherapist begins and ends before a game. Now, have you known such interventions during a match? Obviously, if a player is cramping, a physio would get on there. But this kind of a critical intervention in your own career, have you read about anything as miraculous as what happened to Glenn Maxwell?
No, not something that is coming on the top of my mind, but it would be a misconception that a physio's job would start and end before the game. It certainly starts there, but it continues all the way till the tour is done, because athletes at the end of the day are a little spoiled with the kind of services that they have towards them. So yes, the physio's job remains most actually when the athlete is playing. So his intervention then, I would say, was bang on his job profile.
Right. Now tell us a little bit about the importance of a physiotherapist. We all know strength and conditioning coach plays a big role. Trainers play a big role. What is the role of a physiotherapist in getting fresh legs on the park every single day? I think the challenge for teams in the current World Cup is to ensure that players get onto the park with fresh minds and fresh sets of legs. What is the role of the physiotherapist there?
So, role of a physiotherapist is actually very catch-22. Catch-22. Where they have to, in a certain span of time, learn the habits and the mindset of the athlete, as well as know their body, head to toe. And every athlete is different. It's like our 5 fingers, right? So the role of the physiotherapist there is to actually get a complete profile of that athlete within his head, which he just goes through when he sees the athlete, which I wouldn't say is the job requirement of any of the other service providers there, of the coach or of the strength and conditioning or the exercise therapist. The physiotherapist at the end of the day knows the muscles, joints, ligaments by book, but also specifically to an athlete what it would be and how it would perform under what circumstances, and which is why it is important for that physiotherapist to understand the mindset of the said athlete. So I would say that the job of the physiotherapist over there is just to keep the athlete going. What you just mentioned about fresh legs, sometimes it is just the touch of a physiotherapist that makes one feel better, and how they do that is very different to every physio, but this is not something that an exercise therapist or a strength and conditioning coach would have the practice to do. Somehow in physiotherapy, because our practice is so hands driven, just touching a person has to be healing. So maybe Nick Jones would have just touched Glenn Maxwell and he would have felt better with that. So this is the role that a physiotherapist would mainly play at such scenarios, and even not in such scenarios.
Right. I want to wrap this up. Yeah. We can go on about the role of the physio, but do you think that at some point of time teams need to recognize the value that a physio like Nick Jones, we would not have heard of the name, but for the fact that Glenn Maxwell was cramping and he was out on the ground and not able to even stand on his 2 feet, and here is a physio who comes in, works magic on a player, and then Australia goes on to turn the tables completely. From 91-7 they went on to win the game. Now, do you think at some point of time tournament organizers need to consider the role of support staff and choose a man of the match or a player of the match accordingly, and probably have given Nick Jones the player of the match award that day?
I think as the back-end team, we're usually unsung heroes, and I think it should remain that way. Providing, acknowledging that as an award somewhere loses the beauty of it. So I think we all will do the work irrespective of the award, because that's the oath we take and that is what we love to do. It's so no, I would debate that point. But yes, I definitely think that all sporting organizations need to make it very, very, very important for a physiotherapist to be there. Gone are those days that your coach knew everything. You need specific people to hit on specific things, and a physiotherapist's presence is extremely, extremely essential on a team. You will do your players a favor.
Spoken like a healer, spoken like a magician, wants no credit at all for the work done by the physiotherapist. But thank you so much, Vahbiz, for sparing time and for sharing the insights into what goes behind the scenes sometimes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.